Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into one of the most incredible military success stories in history, the Arab conquests. In just a few decades, Arab forces went from small tribal warriors to the rulers of an empire stretching from Spain to India. They crushed two of the world's superpowers, the Byzantines and the Sassanians, despite being outnumbered and out-equipped. How did they do it? Was it just religious motivation, or was there something more? Today, we are going beyond the surface-level explanations. We will explore the battle tactics, leadership, and sheer strategic brilliance that made the Arabs an unstoppable force. Get ready, because this story isn't just about war, it is about a revolution in how wars were fought. Before Islam, Arabia was a land of warring tribes, locked in endless blood feuds. There was no unity, no central leadership, just fragmented groups fighting for survival. But everything changed when Islam emerged. It wasn't just a new religion, it was a force that united these tribes under a single banner. Suddenly, warriors who had once fought against each other were now brothers in arms, fighting for a shared cause. And this wasn't just about faith, it was about identity. The Byzantines and Sassanians ruled vast territories, but their armies were filled with conscripts and mercenaries who fought for money or because they were forced to. The Arab warriors, on the other hand, chose to fight. They believed they had a divine mission, and that kind of conviction made them fearless. Against an army of soldiers who were just doing their job, they had an overwhelming psychological advantage. But belief alone does not win wars. The Arabs developed a way of fighting that was unlike anything their enemies had ever faced. While the Byzantines relied on slow, heavily armored infantry, and the Sassanians fielded massive war elephants, the Arabs fought fast. They didn't march in rigid formations or engage in long, exhausting battles. Instead, they used hit-and-run tactics, launching surprise attacks and disappearing into the desert before their enemies could retaliate. Their cavalry was their greatest weapon. While their enemies were slowed down by heavy armor and supply chains, Arab horsemen could strike deep into enemy territory without warning. They didn't need supply wagons, they lived off the land, moving swiftly, outpacing and outmaneuvering their foes. Their deep knowledge of the terrain allowed them to control the battlefield, deciding when and where to fight. At the Battle of Yarmouk in 636, the Byzantines outnumbered the Arabs almost 2-1. A traditional army might have stood its ground and tried to hold the line, but the Arabs did not fight traditional battles. Instead, they lured the Byzantines into rough terrain, then counterattacked with devastating speed. Byzantine forces were caught in a whirlwind of strikes from all sides. Their formations collapsed, and their soldiers, many of whom had no real loyalty to the empire, simply fled. It was a complete disaster for the Byzantines, and it opened the gates for the Arab expansion into the Levant. But let's not forget one of the biggest reasons for their success. Their enemies were already falling apart. The Byzantine and Sassanian empires had been at war with each other for nearly 30 years before the Arabs arrived. Their armies were exhausted, their treasuries drained, and their populations fed up with endless taxation and corruption. In Persia, the Sassanian ruling class had become so detached from their people that when the Arabs invaded, many local communities simply did not resist. Some even welcomed them, preferring Arab rule over the oppressive Sassanian system. The same thing happened in Byzantine territories. Many Christian sects saw the Arabs as less of a threat than their own rulers, who had persecuted them for religious differences. And then there was leadership. The Arabs did not just have good commanders, they had military geniuses. Khalid ibn al-Walid, known as the Sword of Allah, was a strategist unlike any other. He never lost a battle. His ability to adapt on the battlefield, execute lightning-fast maneuvers, and anticipate enemy moves made him a nightmare for the Byzantines and Sassanians. At Yarmouk, he used feigned retreats to trick the Byzantines into overextending their lines, then struck at their weakest points. At the Battle of Qadisiyah against the Sassanians, he identified their greatest strength, war elephants, and turned it against them. Instead of engaging the elephants head-on, Arab archers targeted their eyes, sending them rampaging back into Persian lines, causing chaos and confusion. But conquest isn't just about winning battles, it's about keeping what you've taken. The Arabs weren't just skilled fighters, they were smart rulers. Unlike previous conquerors, they did not force their religion on the people they ruled. Instead, they introduced a system where non-Muslims could keep their faith as long as they paid a tax, the jizya. This was far less oppressive than Byzantine and Sassanian taxation, and as a result, many conquered people preferred Arab rule over their former masters. They also created an efficient governance system, ensuring that newly conquered lands were well organized and did not descend into chaos. Under leaders like Umar ibn al-Khattab, the Arab Empire stabilized quickly, avoiding the rebellions and civil wars that had weakened their predecessors. So, what made the Arab conquest so successful? It wasn't just faith, and it wasn't just luck. It was a combination of unity, military innovation, perfect timing, brilliant leadership, and smart governance. They moved faster, struck harder, and ruled more effectively than their enemies. And that is why, in just a few decades, they built one of the greatest empires in history. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into history, and let me know in the comments which historical battle or empire you want us to cover next. See you in the next one.